All right, folks, welcome back to another episode of This Week in Photo. I'm your host, Frederick Van Johnson. Joining me on today's show to talk about some really interesting topics related to photography are my good friends, Mr. Shiv Verma and Miss Valerie Jardin. Hey, guys, how you doing?
Hello, good.
Good, Frederick.
Hey,
How are
it's
you
good.
doing?
I'm doing really good. I'm doing really good. You know what? I'm embarrassed to say this, Shiv, especially to both of you guys. You both travel internationally all the time. I'm still jet lagged.
Oh no! And it's been what, a week?
It's been more than a week, and I'm still not wanting to get up early. I'm not going to tell you what time I've been getting up, but I'm still not wanting to get up. My body wants to be in Southeast Asia for some reason.
I think you need to travel a lot more.
I need to travel more. That's the
Yes.
deal.
The only way to cure this disease is to travel more.
Yeah, just to keep your body completely confused
Oh
at all
yeah,
times,
yeah.
right? Yeah, it's good. It's good. I feel good though. I feel good. I'm ready. I'm ready to travel again. You know, and it's interesting you say that because that's the main discussion that we're going to have on today's show. Some tips and tricks from veteran travelers, you two, to share with the This Week in Photo Army. Before we start that, Valerie, what's been going on, in your world? You know what? I just got off the phone a couple of minutes ago with a mutual friend of ours, Mr. Chris Smith, who
Oh,
you know from your Out of Chicago
Chris
experiences.
is awesome. He was
Guess
just
who's-
on my show last week or 2 weeks.
Oh, was he?
ago. Yeah.
Guess who's joining you at this year's Out of Chicago?
I know you are, and I hear you're going to be singing too. So
Yeah.
we're looking forward to that.
Yeah. Oh, yeah. I may sing for I'm gonna do some other things. So it's gonna be very entertaining. I'm not gonna tell you what it is. You have to come to the conference to see exactly what I'm gonna do. But it will be very entertaining at the very least. So.
And that's in June. Is it like the third weekend in June or something?
That is, yeah. I still have my notes scribbled down here. It is June 23rd for the pre-conferences, all the way through to the 26th.
I mean, it's pretty awesome.
Yeah,
I
it's
love it.
gonna be fun. It's gonna be fun. You're doing lots of street photography stuff there and roaming around the city of Chicago like the Pied Piper with photographers behind you, right? So that'll be good. So Shiv Verma, what have you been up to? Have you been in the U.S. or have you been abroad?
Actually, I've been in the U.S. for the past month and a half, which is really interesting. And did the Bistai Badlands, which was phenomenal. And spent about the last 3-4 weeks trying to catch up on everything that I should have done back in the summer. So
I'm in that boat right now. Trust me.
so catch up time, and now I'm just looking forward to 2016. So it's going to be fun.
I have a good feeling about this year. 2013 was a little strange. 14 was less strange. 15 was a really good year. 16, I feel like is going to be insanely good. So
well, as long as it keeps improving, perfect.
Yeah. Well, it's all contingent upon this presidential race, so it could all go south. I'm just saying. I'm not saying anything else, but it could go south. I'm just saying. So, all right, guys, let's jump into this featured discussion. And we put in the notes, thanks to Bruce Clark, host of TWiP Weddings and our show notes writer for this show. He suggested we do a roundtable discussion about some of the things that we've learned about packing for our photography trips. I don't travel nearly as much as you guys travel, but I had some learnings on this trip, as I did, Valerie, when I went with you to Paris. We did that Paris trip. I had lots of learnings there, too. Every trip I go on, I learn something new, and I get better and better. So I'm assuming you guys are probably, you probably have like a permanent bag packed and you just go, right? Valerie, from a high level, before we dive into the minutia, some of the things that you learned before you started traveling a lot versus now. Like, what are some of the big highlights? Is it like take less stuff, always check a bag, don't check a bag? Like, what have you learned?
No, I do check a bag, but it's only clothes, so I feel like if it doesn't get there, I always have a change of clothes on my carry-on. I've learned that because, I mean, you need to, because that's the last thing you want to do when you land is go shopping. And it's happened that my bag was delayed a couple days, and I don't want to spend. I hate shopping. I mean, people would think I'm insane because I'm in Paris, but I don't even walk into a store the whole time I'm in Paris. So if I have to start my my trip with shopping is not good. So I always have a change of clothes just in case. But anything important besides clothes is with me on the plane.
Cameras, electronics, computers, all that stuff.
And it's so minimal that it really, it's just one small bag, but still, yeah. And even when I was still carrying DSLR stuff, it was on the plane with me. Yeah. I learned from your mistake that it's better to bring your chargers on the plane too.
Don't get me started on that. From my wild goose chase around Paris to find batteries.
Yeah. So, but that's not something I was doing until it happened to you. See, I mean, you learned from your mistake and you learned from others.
Oh yeah. I have a whole little compartment. Oh yeah, in my head, and this is military stuff, I feel like if the bag that I check in, especially after this Paris trip, the bag that I check in should be expendable. Right? It should, of course I'm going to have to go buy some things, but for that first day or so, I should be completely good to do the mission that I'm on this trip to do with just what I have with me on my person. If the bag comes out on that carousel, I'm golden. Yeah. But if it doesn't show up, it's not the end of the world, right? So Shiv, what about you? Any learnings, just like top line learnings?
I kind of agree with Valerie. The one thing and I don't carry a full change of clothes because that's too much stuff. If you're wearing a pair of jeans, you can wear it for a whole week. I don't care. So, but one of the things that I've kind of learned, and it's important, is that you carry wicking undergarments. That's important. They're light. They're easily packed.
What are they called again? Say again.
Wicking. The ones that absorb moisture, and you can wash them out, and they dry like literally within 15 minutes. So that's really convenient, and you put those and actually pack them around your lenses, so you don't have to worry about taking up other room. Really good. I also look at what goes in my carry-on bag, and it's usually all the stuff that I can do without. I mean, push come to shove, I can do without a tripod and a ball head, so that goes in the carry-on. Mm-hmm. I can do without my articulating devices to do time lapse. That can go in the carry-on, but it's all heavy stuff. Yeah. So if some of that doesn't show up the first day or the second day, it's no big deal. I mean, today's cameras, you've got good ISO capability. You can handhold it and do it. But I learned actually from one of the TWiP shows of a great product. It's the Platypod.
Yes, they're coming on hopefully in 2016 if I can get through my mountain of email.
So I got myself one of those, and I put a Benro head on it, and it just packs up nicely into its own little pouch. So that's now become a permanent fixture in my bag. And so if I lose the big tripod, if it doesn't show up, at least I have something to stabilize my equipment with when I need it. So go small and go light.
Go small and go light. Yeah. The two takeaways are, that the bag that you check in after the check-in person throws it on the conveyor belt behind them, you may never see it again. So pack accordingly, yes. Right?
Although that hasn't happened. I mean, I should really knock on wood. It hasn't happened in years. I think now it's. I think they get the luggage thing, the check-in luggage, under better control now than they did 20 years ago.
Right.
Where it was like every other flight overseas, we'd expect the luggage not to show up. It was normal. Now it's pretty rare. I mean, it's happened to, even I see from, with all the workshops I teach in a year now, I would say 100 students over 9-10 workshops. It happened only to one student last year. So that's not too bad.
Did they lose the luggage permanently, or did it just show up later?
It came like 3 days later, which is actually, they got, first class international tickets and gift packages, and they were well taken care of,
Please lose my luggage, please.
I know. That's what we're all thinking. Wow. So they got well compensated. I mean, it's inconvenient, but out of, let's say, 100 people, just one on an international flight, that's not so bad.
Yeah. I've never had an airline lose bags, but it has been delayed to the next flight for some reason. And that, I gotta tell you, that is the worst feeling in the world, and I still have PTSD from standing at that carousel, the last person there, and it stops moving, and your luggage is not out. Like, okay, what's going on? Did somebody steal my bag and I didn't see them grab it? Did it not? Where is it? You know, all these things go through your mind, and it teaches you, like I said, to not rely on it coming out, because there's always that chance that it might not come out. Now, what about clothes? I want to talk about clothes a little bit. So when I was packing for this last trip I went on, that was a big thing for me. It's like, okay, I'm going to an environment that I've never been to before. I'm not sure. I mean, you can research weather patterns and all this stuff all day long, but until you get there, you don't know what it's going to be like. So I wanted to prepare for multiple situations, but then I didn't want to overpack and be that guy with, 3 wardrobes. Come to learn on this trip, veteran travelers like Ralph Velasco do what Shiv does, right? You pack convertible clothing and clothing that you can wash and these kinds of things, which is what I didn't do. Valerie, what do you do? Like, if you're going on a trip for, let's say it's a 3-week trip, which is a long time, do you pack for a couple of days and then just recycle your clothes? You pack for a week, or do you pack for the entire time?
Well, first of all, I pretty much only wear black, so it makes it a little bit
I'm no stranger to that, Valerie.
And it's really nice because women can wear scarves. So even if you wear black every day, and kind of recycle your clothes, you wear a different scarf color. Yeah. And I always tell my participants that just wear, buy scarves in Paris or in Rome, wherever we are. They're really cheap, and then it looks like you're wearing different things. Even if you go to dinner, you can dress up with scarves, But otherwise, I always rent apartments, and I always rent an apartment with a wash machine. So then I pack less because I know I'll be able to do the wash one evening, and then the next morning it's dry even if I don't have a dryer. So for me, that's a plus. I hate having to run for laundromats. So, and since I never stay in hotels, I only stay in apartments. I always rent apartments with wash machines.
Yeah. In Vietnam, we stayed in hotels for the most part, and they all had either laundry services or people that would come in and pick up the laundry and have it for you the next morning. So I took advantage of that, and it was dirt cheap. It was obscenely cheap to have laundry done. So I was like, I'm doing laundry all the time. Why not? It costs nothing. Shiv, what about you? I mean, do you pack for a couple of days, a week, a month if you're going on a long trip?
Before I tell you about that, I just want to forewarn you. If you are going to Asia and you like having your stuff laundered, never give laundry in to be done the day before you're going to leave.
Oh, yeah. That's a good
that's It may not show up. I mean, it's one of those things.
But have you had that happen to you?
It happened to me once, and I've sworn never to send laundry in the day before I'm leaving. Even though they promise you it'll be back in your room, 5 o'clock in the afternoon, it's usually one of those cases when it won't show up.
Yeah. But I would say I would probably extend that to Earth, because it's probably not just Asia that can happen.
It could happen anywhere. Yeah. But no, I don't overpack. I mean, I'll pack for 4 days, even if it's a 1-week trip or a 2-week trip, because you can always recycle. But there are some key things that I always make sure that I have. Don't rely on just one pair of shoes. You definitely want 2 pairs of shoes. And what I found to be most convenient is rain pants that are made for golfers. They're very light, very easy to slip on. And the last thing you want is, particularly in Asia, if you're going to be there, it can rain any afternoon, and it can be pretty severe. So that pair of rain pants in your camera bag or in one of the pouches works perfectly, and so does a rain sort of jacket with a hood. So both those literally roll up into fist size objects, and you can just keep it in your bag. So if there's something that I recommend you always carry, or always have with you, are those 2 things.
Yeah, I got hit with that. Actually, we were riding bicycles through rice paddies in Vietnam. I think it was Hoi An, and of course it's tropical there, and it started raining. And I had on Vans, it was regular old Vans, which got soaked. They didn't get ruined, but they got soaked. And I was thinking, had I actually had sense and thought about this, I would have either bought some waterproof coverings for my shoes or had shoes that could have survived being wet. So yeah, really good tip.
The shoes are definitely the most important, and never only, even if they're super comfortable shoes, you don't, I mean, like in big cities, you walk all day, and we wear city clothes. I think that's one thing, and I just had a fun show with Martin Bailey about that, where we called it wildlife versus street life, where we actually compare our gear and the clothing and everything, and it was actually really fun. But I think that's one of the advantages of being a nature photographer, because you can wear some sturdy hiking boots and you pretty much set. Whereas street photographers, I mean, we need to blend in. We're not going to go there with hiking boots. Right. That would look a little funny in a city like Paris or Rome or New York. So we wear city clothes and city shoes and try to find something that looks trendy, that is comfortable enough to walk 15 miles a day. That's tough. So always have at least 2 pairs of good shoes, and that's why I spend more money on shoes than on photo gear, I swear, in a year, just because I spend a lot of money. I buy really, really good shoes because I need super comfortable but nice looking shoes, and also always carry those they're like something you could put over a blister that's like another skin, basically. And always carry those for your heels and for your toes, because that will save the day. You put that on right after you start having a little bit of friction in your shoe, and that will make your blister, completely pain-free. Because there's nothing worse than being stuck with a really bad blister and you're walking all day and for an entire week, and that could happen on day one, and that could really ruin your trip.
Ruin the trip, yeah. I know a lot of the female listeners that are listening to you, Valerie, are like, okay, what kind of shoes? You can't leave it like that. Which shoes?
Well, I'll need to write a list, because I buy a lot of I buy some French shoes and a lot of European brands, because I like them and they're comfortable, but I usually always put kind of an insert like for more support, because that's the thing, when you buy shoes that look cool, they're always flat and they're always very comfortable, but they usually don't have as good support as a hiking shoe, for example. So I always put like an insert with more support just for comfort. That is just so important, and it's, never go on a trip with new shoes. Make sure they're well broken in. That's common sense, but I'm always surprised how many people make that mistake.
Just this conversation so far has saved me probably 10 pounds in my bag, because it's like, because like when I went on this trip, I'm like, okay, you're going to shoot, right? Ultimately, that's your mission there, but you still want to, if you feel like you look good, you're going to be more comfortable mentally, right? So I'm like, okay, I'm going to bring this shirt and bring that shirt, what if we go out to dinner, so at night, so I need this shirt just in case, and but as I, proceeding through this conversation, I'm thinking, I could have just brought all black stuff. It would have been totally fine, that I could have worn in multiple kind of configurations, and I could have brought maybe 4 sets of whatever, and no one would ever have known, The scarf thing probably wouldn't have worked for me.
Maybe not.
Although I did wear a scarf. It's almost mandatory in Southeast Asia, at least when we went that time of year, because you're just like, I don't believe there was a time that I was there that I wasn't moist. It's just like you're constantly
dripping
and wiping, and it's okay, but you're just like, so you have to have something to do that with. So I ended up getting a scarf at Ralph Velasco's suggestion, and it was like, of course, this should be like mandatory gear for everyone. Chief, what about you? What about shoes?
You both are absolutely correct. 2 pairs of shoes, and they both have to be extra comfortable. And Valerie is right. You have the extra support if you're going like to Africa or to Iceland or whatever it is, but they still have to be comfortable. They have to be very comfortable. You should be able to walk in them for, 15 miles. I don't do that, but as long as you're walking, you don't want to feel the shoes. You want to just walk. And I really like your suggestion of carrying those inserts, because I haven't done that. Fortunately, I haven't had blisters, but next time you never know. So I'm going to sort of put those in. The other thing that what I do travel with, and I tend to carry a few extras, is depending upon where I'm going. If I'm going to Iceland, I always carry hand warmers and foot warmers. Even though you may never need them, I've been on multiple trips where I haven't even slit open a pack, but they're there just in case it gets inordinately cold, and you can pull those out and at least you're comfortable. Because photography is the pits if you're physically uncomfortable. You have to be physically comfortable. So that's the other thing that goes in my bag, depending upon where I'm going.
But if you're doing cold weather, how do you manage? And that's a great tip in having warmers in your bag, because it's better to have them and not need them than to need them and not have them, especially if it's minimal weight addition to your overall pack. But what about manipulating your camera? Right, so
mittens and gloves.
In cold, and I have some of those I have some mittens that have the flip over tips, so you can get your fingers in there, and I also have some that have the capacitive touch fingertips in there. Do you guys use those?
I not on my workshops, because I go to warmer places.
Yes, you do.
And I go to cities, but here, I mean, like, we're getting 12 inches of snow. It's already in the teens now. Finally have winter in Minnesota, so I mean, just to be out shooting in Minneapolis in the city, I have to think of that. So I wear thin gloves, and then I put hand warmers in my mittens. So when I'm not using my camera, I don't have to remove the thinner gloves. I can use them for the for the dials and everything, but then in between I put my hands back in my mittens, and if it's really cold, then I have those little warming packs in there, so it's like a little heater, and as she said, I mean, comfort is so important, and there's nothing worse than having frozen fingers if you're doing
miss shots, right? Because you're like, that's a good shot over there, but you know what, I'm gonna skip it. It's not that good.
Yeah.
I don't know, Valerie, you're making me not miss Chicago. I know Chicago just got hit today as we record this with more snow, and California, it rained a little, so.
Well.
But it rained enough so I could take my drone out, so sad. I don't know. This is interesting. So, Valerie, you mentioned Airbnb or renting apartments, and when I went to Paris for your workshop, I stayed in the Airbnb. Any tips you can give people about using that service? It seems great. It works fine, but I'm sure there's some hacks.
I've only had one bad experience, and I've used Airbnbs probably I would say 50 or 60 different places,
wow.
and I never rent the same place because I like to explore. Even in the same city, I'll always change. In the same neighborhood, but I'll always try a different place. And I've used them from Iceland to Australia to Rome, Paris, the UK. I mean, you name it. I've been to so many different countries. I've only been disappointed once in New York. But that said, it's all about reading the feedback from other people. So try not to go with somebody brand new at it, because I mean, they have to start somewhere, you know.
Don't let them practice on you.
Yeah, that happened to me once, and that was a bad experience. But if they have 4 to 5 star rating consistently, and they have dozens and dozens of reviews, you can't go wrong. And
for the folks that may not have heard of Airbnb, there's a significant amount of people that don't know about it. Just give us an overview. What is it? What does it give you over just going to a hotel?
It's you pretty much live like a local, so you either rent a room at somebody's apartment or you rent an entire apartment. I've only rented the room in people's homes twice. Otherwise, I usually rent a 1-bedroom or a studio just for me. And so you have the key, it's your place. You have your kitchen, you go to the local store, they give you suggestions of restaurants. It is your home. So often they're places that are only being rented out other times, there are people that actually live in them and just vacate them for the time that you're going to need them, and they go and stay at friends or at relatives for the weekend or the week. So that's kind of a way for them to make extra money. I prefer the ones that are only for renting, because then you're not in people's, you don't have their clothes in the closet and things like that, which can be a little strange. But I've done both, and it's just been great.
You haven't had any, because my concern would be, like, is it clean? I know a hotel, cleanliness is a fallacy overall, but still, staying in a place that's not a hotel without a maid service or anything like that, I'd be concerned with. Is it going to be clean? What about these sheets? Who's been on these sheets before me?
Again, you have to read the reviews of people who stayed there before you. Yeah. And with Airbnb, they're reliable. I mean, you are rated as a renter as well as you rate the person who is renting to you. So it's in your best. I mean, you have to give a rating. And so if the Cleanliness is the one that only has 3 stars, I'm not going to go there. Yeah. So, but I've never had problems.
What about you? Have you had any experience with Airbnb?
Kind of, only on my scouting trips. When I'm taking clients who are actually doing a workshop, I want to be with them. And sometimes, if you think about this, you may be in one building and 2 people in another building, and so that becomes a little inconvenient, particularly from their point of view. So when I'm out on a scouting trip, yes, I will do that, because it's a lot of fun. And what's important is, when you're on a scouting trip, you do one of those, the locals that you're staying with will give you some great tips. They'll tell you all about what's going on in the city, what's going on where you are, what to look for,
where to stay away from.
Yeah, what to stay away from. But more importantly is, if you tell them that this is what you're trying to do and you're going to be bringing a group of people, they'll actually help you find other locations that you may have completely missed in the first place. So it's a very convenient way of identifying where to go, where not to go, and also it's a great experience to mingle with the locals.
Love it.
Yeah, for sure.
Great discussion, and cost-wise, both of you guys, cost-wise, Airbnb versus, say a 3-4 star hotel.
It's a lot cheaper.
It's cheaper on the.
Oh yeah, I mean, like for Paris, for example, my clients have the choice of full accommodation or tuition only. So they can stay at the hotel, but it's a €300 a night hotel. I mean, it's the Parisian experience. Whereas they can choose to just pay for the tuition and stay in cheaper hotels or at Airbnb. So I like to give that option. I didn't give that option before, but then it becomes more affordable for a lot of people that way. And so yeah, it's at least half the price, if not a third.
Yeah, love it. Definitely something worth considering. And yeah, like I said, I stayed in the Airbnb when I was there, and I did feel like a local. I mean, I felt like, hey, this is my place. I live over there. Downstairs was what was that? A bistro or a bakery or something?
Oh yeah, you were in Cafe Corner.
Yeah, it was like Cafe Corner. I walked down and have coffee and get my little croissant. And
you were right across the street from Hemingway's apartment. Remember?
Right there. Yeah, it was like 1 block over. So I was. I was living it. Loved it. All right, guys, I want to transition a little bit the discussion into. I'm going to talk about. I don't want to dive too much into gear, but I want to talk about what you take with you on these trips, and I want to start with the bag itself, because that's, as I've learned over the several trips over 2015, that what you carry on the plane affects everything else, right? So because you got to get your computer, your tablet, if you're bringing one of those with you, all your camera, your charger, your lenses. You got to get everything, and you got to carry it with you, and you got to be kind of comfortable, with Valerie. What do you bring with you? You don't have that much gear because you're shooting Fuji, right? But
yeah.
What do you bring with you?
Usually I bring a backup camera. So for the trip there, both cameras will fit in the smallest Think Tank Retrospective 5, and I still have room for other stuff. So that's that's it. And then when I'm on location, I switch to an even smaller bag because the camera is in my hand and the bag is empty, or I'll just put my umbrella in there and stuff. So
and it's a fixed lens, so you don't have to worry about lenses or any of that
I don't
stuff.
bring extra lens or anything. So right now my favorite bag is the Ona Bowery bag. And it's beautiful. It's leather and
Oh, look at that. That's cool.
It's what do you call it? Oiled canvas, where it's waterproof because it's oiled. Is that how you call it?
Yeah.
Yeah. And it's very, very rugged, and it doesn't look like a camera bag. It just looks like a cool, very small messenger bag. So that's what I carry. But as I said, the camera is really never in it unless it starts to downpour or something. So
interesting.
And then I'll pull out the umbrella.
This is a good discussion because on the one hand, Valerie, you're minimalist, right? You got one camera, you want to be low-key shooting, but Shiv, on the other side, you're doing time lapses, and I know you're shooting mirrorless now, or you're not? Have you transitioned to mirrorless?
Completely mirrorless.
But you're interchangeable lenses, so you probably have more than one lens with you. You have a more substantial bag, right?
Not really. I mean, Valerie has a retrospective 5. I carry a retrospective 7. And it's amazing if you do it right. I carry from 7mm, which on the Micro Four Thirds is a 14mm lens. So one 7 to 14, one 12 to 35, and one 35 to 100. So I have between 14 and 200mm sitting in my bag with one body.
Yeah.
And then what I do is my second back or my backup body, I put around my neck and put a 15mm lens on that, and so that gives me my time lapse work because I need manual aperture. So there's one body with that lens, and the bag carries the rest. Now, as long as you have the same batteries that are interchangeable, one charger, 4 batteries, because the batteries do get consumed fairly quickly, particularly in the cold.
Yeah.
And then the tripod's actually in the carry-on, so no big deal. And now with this platypus, you can just stick it on the side, hang it from the bag, and nobody bothers you. They kind of wonder what's dangling, but that's okay.
Yeah.
So it's really back down to a very small. I love that Ona bag that Valerie talked about, but the retrospective is just about a foot and a bit. So.
Yeah, I love that. That's one of the cool things about having smaller gear is everything else gets smaller around it. And the thing for me is I shoot with the that Peak Design Everyday Messenger bag, and I brought that with me around Vietnam. It performed great. I'm going to record a video. There's some little refinements that could be made, but overall, the thing rocked the entire trip. And the main reason why was because, like you guys are, like both of you, I'm shooting mirrorless, so my stuff is smaller. I brought 3 lenses with me, but ended up only using 2 of those lenses, so I could have lightened it even further. But in the bag, as we were popping from city to city, because there was multiple flights in country, on the flights I would have all my important stuff in the bag. So I'd have my MacBook Pro 13-inch, my iPad Mini, my cameras. I had 2 cameras, primary and a backup, and all that stuff would be in the bag, along with my passport and travel documents and money and all that stuff would be in the bag with me. And it looks like, it kind of looks like a camera bag, but it really does look like a messenger bag. So I felt secure with it. And the cool thing about that bag is it has multiple carrying modes. So obviously it's got a handle on it, but it also had a mode that I didn't think I would ever use, and that's you kind of cinch it up really tight to your body, and the bag comes up and kind of becomes kind of like a backpack. And you put a waist cinch on there, so it's secured to your waist as well as across your shoulder. And in that config, I felt like I could run marathons because it's just there and everything's tight on me, and I could get stuff done or convert it to a side bag and pull my stuff out quickly.
So it's not flopping around.
No, not flopping around at all until I want it to flop around, which is kind of the point. So it worked out really well for me. I love so far it's the bag that I would use all the time. Now the caveat to that is I have a drone now. so now Eric Chang, my friend Eric Chang, formerly of DJI, recommended the Think Tank Airport Helipack, I believe is the name of the bag, which I've heard rave reviews. Brian, one of the guys that comes on the show from time to time, he recorded a video. We'll link to it in the show notes. But he was sort of raving about how this is the perfect bag for the drone. So now, when I go back to Vietnam and I want to bring a drone with me, it will likely be that pack. Or I'll maybe have to figure out a way to bring both of them so that when I'm doing nighttime street photography, I have this bag. But if we're out in the middle of nowhere and I want to get some aerials, I still have a bag that I can put all my camera gear in, as well as the aerial gear and all that stuff. So it's really it's interesting how it all works together.
The interesting thing is that if you are traveling by air, I mean, all airlines allow you to carry 2 bags.
Yeah.
So, if your second bag is small and can go in the seat in front of you, they're not going to object to the, slightly larger, sort of rollerboard type of bag which you can put up in the hold. So, it's really, planning on what it is that you want to do, and then you pack accordingly. So.
Yeah. Well, the last question on here before we move on to story number 2. Geez, we're already 40 minutes into the show. The last question is about security of your bag. So your checked bag in particular. So what I do when I check my larger piece of luggage, if it's that kind of trip, is I have zip ties. And I'll just zip tie close, meaning TSA, if they need to get into it, they can snip it and get in, and it's good. But it serves as a deterrent for somebody. They just can't zip it open real quick and ruffle through it and steal stuff if there's stuff in there to steal. So I do that. There's also the TSA locks that you can purchase. Do you guys lock your bags when you check in?
No.
Yeah,
go ahead. No, go ahead.
No, I use the TSA locks, and I've probably had about 10 times that my bags have been opened. But they don't have to cut the locks. They just open it. They leave a little slip in there saying this bag was opened, for your security and the security of your fellow passengers, blah, blah, blah. But, it's something it's good because it deters a non-TSA person from trying to open your bag. A zip tie, a penknife will cut it. I mean, that's all. So they don't need any tools to do that with.
It's a placebo, right?
Yeah.
Valerie, what about you? Do you lock your stuff up?
No, but I use those little twisty things. Like when you buy some, any electronics. How the cord is always.
It's a twist.
Tie wraps.
Yeah, those little metal, for bread even. Anyway, for the bread bag or whatever. So I save those and I use that and I twist it around several times and it's really tight. The advantage, I can remove it myself. I don't have to cut it. Yeah. But it would be really, really annoying for anybody to just untwist.
Security through annoyance. I love it.
Probably give up on it.
Yeah, for my zip ties, I zip tie them, but I always keep a pair of fingernail clippers or toenail clippers, whatever, in an outside pocket.
Yeah, you need that. Yeah.
Yeah, so I just grab the toenail clippers, clip them, and I'm good to go. If TSA hasn't found the need to open it.
If you're doing multiple flights, then you better carry a whole bunch of extra ties with you.
Yeah, and I bought a group of them from the Home Depot, and they had this can of them with a million for $2. So I just keep 20 or 30 of them in the front pocket of my bag, and then I just put them on there. Right. They weigh nothing, they take no space. Okay, so the last question on this, about, maybe 5-6 years ago, Alex Lindsay was on the show, and we were having a similar conversation about, hacks, because he's the Uber traveler. I think he may spend 10 minutes at home throughout the year. And one of the things that he said, I don't know if he's ever done this, but he mentioned that this was a possibility. I'd be eager to know if any of the TWiP listeners have tried this. But he said if you keep a unloaded weapon of any kind registered, obviously, in your luggage, and of course there's paperwork that you've got to fill out, but then once you give that to the airline, they have to treat it as some kind of special Uber, golden magical piece of luggage that will absolutely positively make it to its destination and will not be tampered with. Do you guys, Valerie, you're shaking your head. What do you think?
That's the last thing I would do today.
Yeah, This was 6 years ago, mind you, before everyone was armed. So
no, do not try at home.
Do not try this at home.
Talk with Alex about this one.
Don't do it. Shiv, what about you? Is this an option?
No. No.
He's like, no.
Alex can do it, and he'll be fine. But
I think the impetus behind Alex's recommendation was, a lot of times they have to check expensive gear. So you can't, he does these events where you got to carry all kinds of crazy stuff that's impossible, obviously, to check in. So in order for the whole group of luggage to make it to its destination, you put this thing in one of the bags. Now the whole group of luggage is now treated with kid gloves. So
or blown up.
or just or you get detained and questioned. I think for the average TWiP listener, probably the advice would be not to do that.
Right. Do that. But on that, just I know we're 40 minutes into this, but if you are a workshop leader or taking a tour, make sure that if people are all traveling together, that you get their bags numbered, and then you tell the airline, we have 24 bags. And we'd like them to be, packed in the same hold, in the same container, and brought out. And usually that works because, they know that there's X number of bags all belong to the same group, and they all come out together, so you get an opportunity to take them off the carousel at the same time and walk away, and it's usually a good thing.
No, this show, I think we may just end up jumping straight to the listener questions and picks after this because we're out of time. We'll save the other two stories for other shows. But because this is a really good conversation.
You mean we're not going to do anorexia?
We're not going to talk. Yeah, we'll. How about we'll foreshadow and tease that we're going to talk about France banning too thin fashion models for the next TWiP. I know, Valerie, you were itching to talk about that.
I feel so concerned.
I don't care. But okay, so one of the things that I saw, and both of you guys, obviously, again, travel internationally, one of the things that I saw that was really interesting, I don't think I'd seen this before, but at one of the airports in Vietnam, they had this service where they were shrink wrapping luggage with these large sheets of plastic. And you'd wrap it like 5 times after it went through security, obviously. So it goes through security, then you'd wrap it so that, I guess, part of Valerie's annoyance strategy, it'd be really hard for someone to get into your luggage. Have you seen that?
It's before security.
It's before security. How can it be before security?
Well, it goes through it still goes through
X-ray.
the scanner. Yeah.
But if they have to get in the United States, it seems like that'd be really annoying for TSA to go into your bag to leave their little I've been here card, right?
Yeah, I mean it's a very Asian thing. I mean it's done in India, it's done all over the place, and they do wrap it. You pay to have it wrapped, and they wrap it before it goes into the scanner. I guess if they find something, they'll cut it open and just get into the bag. But yeah, it's a deterrent, but I think it's more for the safety of the bag, not to have it scratched up and stuff like that. So there are many reasons for it, but in reality, if somebody wants to get into your bag, they will.
They're going to get
just like anybody can get into your house. It doesn't matter what you do.
Yeah, if they want to get your stuff, they're going to get your stuff.
Yeah. Just don't leave anything valuable in it. I mean, that just makes sense.
Yeah. You just, we joke about making it annoying to do things, but that's basically security, right? Yeah. If they want to get your stuff, they're going to get it.
Put your dirty laundry on top.
You put your dirty,
Yes.
I'm going to use that. The last day of the trip, right? Don't wash anything. Put everything on top. Say, if you want to go through my stuff, you're going to have to go through my stuff. I love it. All right. Well, this is good, guys. Any parting thoughts on travel tips, Val?
I just think that people overpack and photographers overpack their gear. I'm sure you overpacked, Frederick. How many things did you actually not use that you wish you had left?
I probably used maybe 30 to 40% of the stuff that I brought.
And did you regret not bringing anything?
No.
Probably not, since you had the kitchen sink with it.
No, I mean, I regretted not bringing waterproof shoes. So if I had packed correctly, or like she was saying, undergarments. I would say underwear, but he's proper. So undergarments that I could have washed myself. I would have loved that because that would have saved me literally some laundry time because I was doing that was the main reason I was doing laundry all the time was for that. So.
And I think that even if you get to the location and you're like, oh, I wish I had my, I don't know, my 200 millimeter lens or whatever, just don't even think of it. Just don't have regrets. Just move on past that. Just live with what you have and make it work. I think you can actually grow and do better work with some limitations anyway. So it's silly to say, oh, I just wish I had that or I wish I had that. It's just move on because that will happen.
Learn to zoom with your feet, right?
What?
Zoom in your feet.
Learn to zoom with your feet.
Exactly.
Yeah.
And on any trip, the day that my students do their best work is the day they only put a prime lens on their camera and go out for the day. And I mean, it never fails. That's always the day they do their best work. So
yeah.
if they have only that lens, that's all they need, really. I mean, photography, but
that's very true. That's very true. Because Shiv, you're shooting shooting Lumix, right? So one of the I brought the two main lenses that I was using on this trip. I was shooting with the GX8, and it was the 14 to 140. That was my walk around all day long until the light got too low lens. And then at night I was using the 15 millimeter f1.7, which is a magical lens. I love that lens. So those are my two lenses, and I brought that 7 to 14. I brought a fisheye lens with me. I recorded videos showing what I brought with me, but I ended up literally not using any of that other stuff. Just those two lenses the entire time. That's all I used.
And in the environment that you were too. I mean, it's not like you can change lens in a super humid environment all the time. I mean, you're better off sticking with one lens, really.
Yeah.
Because you don't want to have to clean your sensor while you're traveling or anything like that. I mean, you can't you can't bring the cleaning stuff with you on the plane anyways. So, you're better off not changing lenses too often.
Love it. Shiv, any parting thoughts?
Yeah, just one parting thought is we all have lots of these Allen wrenches that we carry. For tripods, for camera plates, etc. Just don't put them in your regular hand luggage. Just put them in, because there are some countries where they're actually banned, and they will give you the hardest time they can just because you have one of those Allen wrenches in something that you're carrying on the plane with you. So just don't do that.
Interesting. Yeah, I got tagged in security inside of Vietnam, one of the hops in there for having those little tiny scissors, the ones you use to trim your mustache. Which Valerie, you may not know about these, but Shiv, I know you know about these. So,
it's a very important piece of kit.
You need those, right?
Yes,
you need
absolutely.
Those. Yeah, so they saw those. The first time they saw them, the TSA lady looked at me. She said, "Are there scissors in your bag?" And I was like, "Yeah, they're in my my toiletry kit." So she pulls them out and she looks at me and she throws them back in there and just waves me on. And then from that point forward, I was thinking, you know what? Let me take those out and put them in my check bag for the next flight. And then I forgot and left them in there. Next flight, another person saw them and confiscated them.
It's actually quite reassuring that they saw them.
They did. Both times they saw them.
Yeah, that's
and they're literally maybe 2-3 inches long at max. So they found them through all my stuff. They found those scissors and said, "Yep, let's get those out of there." All right, guys. We're gonna take a quick break. When we come back, we're going to answer a listener question. All right, guys. We are back. It is time for some listener Q&A. This week's question is from Roel Boessen, and Roel says, "My question is related to photographing people indoors or in other low-light situations using available light. I don't want to use a flash as I like the mood that ambient light provides. This means I'm limited to using ISO, aperture, and shutter speed to get the right exposure and to freeze motion. I'm an amateur photographer using a Nikon D90 in combination with the following lenses: a Nikon the AFS DX 16 to 85, f3.5 to 5.6, a 70 to 300 f4.5 to 5.6, and a 35 millimeter f1.8. So he says he's come up with several solutions and would like to get some advice or feedback on these. He wants to know, should he keep the D90 and invest in better or faster glass? Should he invest in a more modern APS-C Nikon body like the D7200? Should he switch to full frame like the D610, or should he switch to a mirrorless system like the Fuji X-T10? So these are good questions, and it's sort of, Shiv, I want to throw this to you first. So you recently, relatively speaking, recently switched from DSLRs to mirrorless, and looking at his lens setup, which is impressive, but most of the lenses, aside from that 35 millimeter, are relatively slow lenses, right? And if you want to shoot indoors with a slow lens, the laws of physics are working against you. What do you think?
Well, I mean, the first question that I didn't get from his dissertation is, what does he like to shoot? I know he likes to shoot indoors, but what is it that he's shooting? I mean, if you're in a situation... Indoors. People indoors, yes, but are they in sports indoors? Are they in a restaurant type of scene, in a bar scene, discotheques? What is it that he's really shooting? But assuming it's not sports, right? Because then he's got a whole different set of problems. But let's assume he's in a restaurant, he likes shooting that kind of light. The 1.8 he has is not a bad lens. Unfortunately, the camera is an older Nikon and doesn't have the ISO sort of sensitivity that he might need to get a better image. So, without spending too much money, a 35 millimeter lens on an APS-C body is not a bad lens. I mean, it's close to 50. It's a 1.8, so you've got enough light gathering capability. So if he doesn't want to do too much else, maybe the D7200 is a good option for him. But knowing where we're all going over time, I would say if you want to invest something, go get yourself a mirrorless camera. Yeah. And one good lens to go with it, because any of the new mirrorless cameras have beautiful ISO capability. Yeah. And the fast lenses are not expensive. Mm-hmm. And he can still use all his Nikon lenses with a fairly cheap adapter to get any of the range shots that he wants to do.
And you hit it right on the head. The subject, what he's shooting is the critical missing variable in this equation, right? Because if he's shooting static indoor people that are he's shooting people indoor, but if he's shooting like landscape, or not landscape, but architectural photography where you have control over the models indoor, and you can say, okay, you guys are going to sit there and just hold still for 10 seconds. You can throw your camera on a tripod and have full control over the environment. But if you're shooting ballerinas indoors, you probably want to invest in something with a higher ISO, like a Sony A7S or something that can see in the dark, that will give you that full latitude. And even if you don't need that kind of magical ISO, you can get one of the cameras that we all use, which are awesome, like a Fuji, Panasonic, Olympus, one of these guys that do fantastic in low light, but obviously not as good as that Sony A7S because it's in a league all its own. Valerie, what do you say to this?
Well, I mean, yeah, I shoot in the dark, indoors or at night, outside people all the time, and motion blur is wonderful in street photography, so I don't really worry about freezing motion. If I'm at 64 ISO and people are moving and it's really, really dark, well, I'm not going to freeze motion with pretty much anything. So that's just the way it is, and I'm not going to worry about it because that's street photography. But yeah, I would definitely pick no matter what, I would pick a fast prime. Like the one he has, the 35 1.8. That's pretty decent, I would imagine. I shoot with a 1.4 or 1.8 most of the time, or if I'm shooting with my X100T, which is my most, this is the camera that I use the most. That's a 2.0, and it's fine.
Yeah. Very cool. Very cool. Well, Royal, I hope it's kind of answered your question. I think that if you can write back to us and let us know what precisely the subject matter is that you're trying to capture and freeze the motion, we might be able to help a little more. But yeah, really, really good advice from the panel here. Listeners, if you have a question you'd like us to answer in the show, just visit us at thisweekinphoto.com. There you'll find a submit a question link. You can send us a question or even leave us a voice message. All right, guys, let's jump into the Picks of the Week segment. Remember, you can pick anything as long as it is somehow related to photography. Shiv, I'm going to let you go first. What's your pick of the week?
My pick is an absolutely awesome product, which has been my primary light source for this podcast today.
Oh.
It's the Rotolight Neo. And it's about 8 inches. I'm going to have to switch things around, but it's about yay big. And it's an LED-based light. There you go. Absolutely phenomenal. You can take it out with 6 AA batteries that last you 3 hours on full power, about 5 hours on mid power. It's got controls for both brightness as well as for temperature. So, I can sort of do literally anything. But what's really interesting about it is if you are into any kind of video, which I'm now getting into, don't do too much of it, you can create all these various scenarios with it. Like if you want, to simulate lightning, it'll do it. If you want to simulate a stroboscopic effect, it'll do that. You want to do fade-ins and fade-outs, it'll do those for you. So it's absolutely incredible. And what they've just come out with are some incremental attachments apart from the filters. You now have bandos. You can actually really control the direction of light. The bag's great. You can hook it onto your belt, and it's a light which works with AC, DC, and 6 AA batteries.
Wow, this is really cool. It's $400, huh?
$400, and it's the only light source I've used for the entire podcast.
Now this is okay. I'm trying to see. This is 9-watt power draw. So it's not battery operated, or is it battery operated?
It can. It's 6 AA batteries that go into it.
Okay.
Yeah. And the case that you just showed, has those little slots in front, so you can actually put 6 extra batteries in the front, and that'll give you 6 hours of full power.
And the light looks great on you. And how big is it? I can't really tell from the photos. You said it's about 6 inches in diameter.
Yeah, actually less than 6 inches. Let me put the other light on and take this one off. So here it is.
Okay.
Right. So it's small, and the nice thing is it can mount on the hot shoe of your camera, and so you can use it as a hot shoe based camera, or you can just hold it, put it on a boom pole, and sort of maneuver it wherever you want. It's just incredible. And just for reference point, change the temperature. Now it's nice and warm.
Yep.
And change the brightness.
Look at that. And they're all LEDs, so so it's going to last for a while. And from the way that you're throwing that thing around, it looks pretty durable and light too, right?
Oh yeah. It's you can carry it around. If it gets bumped, it's not really going to hurt it too much. It's a plastic. It's molded plastic, but it's fairly strong. I wouldn't hesitate to use it in the field.
Very cool. All right, the Rotolight Neo on-camera LED lights, $400. And B&H has it in stock now, available to ship tomorrow.
Get it by the end.
This whole world of overnight shipping is killing me, man. It's killing my bank account. Love it. All right, Shiv, thanks for that. That's a perfect pick.
Get it now.
Get it now before I get it, yeah. Valerie, what about you? What's your pick of the week?
It's the Fuji wide conversion lens for the X100. So, for people who are watching this, okay, this is the X100T.
Yep.
With its original lens, which you can't remove. It's a 23mm lens, and this is the camera with the wide extension. So it makes a difference. It screws to the front of it.
Yeah.
And
so it gives you multiple lens capability.
Well, I have a tele also that I haven't used yet, but I I wasn't really interested in it originally because I just love this camera. I don't need anything else but a 23mm, which is a 35 equivalent. This gives me, this would be like a 19mm then. And the thing is, you don't lose any sharpness at all, which completely blew me away. There is absolutely no distortion. It is amazing. I never thought that something you put in front of your lens could be as good of quality as a fine prime lens.
Yeah, that would be my concern.
And
you put something on there, and it seems like it would degrade and get softer.
No, not at all. And everybody was, raving about it. And a lot of street photographers use it. They don't ever take it off their X100 cameras, and it's phenomenal. I still prefer the camera without it, just because it's that much smaller and more inconspicuous. But it's great. I mean, if you want to shoot wider, if you want to include more, cityscape during your day of shooting, just throw it in your bag. You just screw it in front of the lens. I mean, you're not going to get dust on your sensors because you're not removing anything. It's just perfect.
Right.
It's really great, and it's beautiful. It's sturdy, and it matches the camera. So.
All right. And that's important.
And
you're walking around Paris with your camera.
Yeah, you need to look good. It's not how good you are; it's how good you look. You know that.
It's better to look good than to feel good.
And right now, I think on Amazon, it's $240 or $50.
Yeah, I had it up there. Yeah.
And normally it's like $3.99 list price, but it's quite a bit cheaper at the moment. And it's worth every dollar. I mean, really, it's quite amazing.
And that says a lot coming from you, because I know you're the consummate minimalist when it comes to your photography.
Yeah.
So for you to add something to your kit, it better be beyond good. And there's no image quality loss. I want to see some of the shots that you shot with that thing.
Yeah, I mean, I posted somewhere. People said, "Oh, did you do some distortion correction?" I said, "Absolutely not." I mean, I did, and I picked inside of a building with columns, and I did a silhouette of somebody coming in. The columns are straight, and that was straight out of the camera.
Wow.
And whereas there is a little bit of distortion without it with the 23mm.
So it actually corrects for the distortion a little.
I don't get it's pure magic. I don't know how that works. But
so what's that term called, Shiv? Is that rectilinear?
Yeah.
It creates a rectilinear version of your wide-angle lens, which gives you that non-bowed or convex concave fisheye thing.
Yeah, I was already very impressed with I have from the XT1. I have the 16mm lens, which is a big lens, so I don't use it very often. It's quite heavy. It's a 1.4. It's a beautiful piece of glass. And same, there is absolutely no distortion. But that's a very expensive, prime lens. Yeah. But this is something you put in front of your camera, and I don't see the difference. Honestly.
So, quick question for you, Valerie. I mean, you shoot a lot of people.
Yep.
When you do I don't want to call it a close-up, but if you want to do like a headshot, do you get the wide-angle distortion?
No.
With this lens?
I shoot, if I do a street portrait, which I still do occasionally, I will shoot with the 23, which is a 35 equivalent.
Yeah, okay.
But actually, one of my guests who shoots wedding photography, documentary style wedding photography, one of the best in my opinion. He's in the UK. He shoots Fuji, and he has that white conversion lens on his camera all the time. That's the 100 X100T with the white conversion lens, and that's what really pushed me to try it, because I just love his work, and it's people.
Yeah.
And very it's cool. Just beautiful.
So many toys. So many toys. So before we clean or switch off of this, speaking of additional lenses, like I said earlier, you made the switch a while back to go from the DSLRs into mirrorless. What does your lens lineup look like? Have you kept it minimalist, or have you been going crazy?
No, it's not a good scene. It's
it's a massacre.
but while we're on that subject, there is we all have this photographer's lust.
Yeah. Yeah.
Now, I have this photographer's lust right now for a lens that's not available. But
which lens? Which lens?
So my piggy bank gets a few coins in it every day, and it's the new 100-400 that Lumix is coming out with.
Yeah.
So
Yes.
I just gotta have it. Just gotta have it.
What's the speed of that thing? You know?
I believe it's going to be a 3.5.
Okay.
Yeah. I don't know if it's going to be 3.5 all the way through. I'm not sure about that, but I may have, and then we get to the next topic of where are you going next. I'm going somewhere where I may have an opportunity to actually use this lens.
Oh, I want to hear about that. I guess we should wrap up the show then. Well, before we do that, my pick of the week, as I kind of foreshadowed at the beginning, is this. I just picked up the DJI Phantom 3 Professional drone. Or UAV or UAS, depending on how politically correct you want to be. It's a drone. So this thing, I'm making it my pick. I actually flew it for the first time a couple days ago, and I posted it on Instagram, my first flight with it. But it's hard to explain. I understand now intrinsically the insanity around why photographers like shooting with this thing. So both of you, I don't know if you've flown these drones before, but the thing that got me, and I actually talked to Eric Cheng, formerly of DJI, about this before, and he was telling me that these things are so stable in the air that you can do up to an 8-second exposure with this. It's that stable, hovering in the air with wind, light wind, albeit, blowing on it. You can do an 8-second exposure. So I did some research. I looked around to see what people have done, and sure enough, there's shots from the air of a seashore with blurry waves, and people have put it in neutral density filter on these things. So it kind of changes your perception. I found myself, since I've only had it for a couple days now, I found myself just sort of thinking, like, okay, what kind of shots can I do now? I want to go to the Golden Gate Bridge and do a shot of land from mid-bridge, or I want to do a shot of this or that. So it kind of becomes this giant tripod in the sky that you have available to you, and it's, the camera itself is a 12 megapixel camera. I think they use the same sensor that's in the GoPro, but they use a rectilinear lens on it, so it doesn't bow or distort. Plus, it's a 4K camera in there that you can shoot video.
This is the one that they've got their own camera on it now.
Yes. This is their own camera. Yeah. So
have you paid your Uncle Sam registration fees for this?
I did. I was a good drone owner, and I sat down and went to the site. This is like right after we recorded the last show, which was about drone registration. So and literally the process to register this thing, it took me 10 minutes. 10 minutes, and it's free up until, I believe it's January 21st. You pay $5 through PayPal or something. They give you your license number, your FAA number, and then at the end of January, they rebate it. They'll put it back on your credit card or whatever you paid. They'll put it back on there. So essentially, it's free. The penalties are steep. So you have to listen to that episode to hear the penalties. Essentially, thousands of dollars and jail time if something happens, like you hurt somebody with it and it's not registered. You can go to jail now, or at least after January. I'm sure there's a little grace period. But if you pay it, then you're safe. So I paid it. You have to write your FAA number on the drone, which I have a little label maker, so I stuck it on there along with my phone number and email address in case it drops.
In case it gets lost.
In case it gets lost. Why not? If it's got to have the FAA thing on there anyway, why not? So, I put that on there, and, I feel like I'm safe when I'm flying, and I'm in compliance. I didn't want to be one of the first people to go to jail or for unauthorized drone flights in the United States of America. So, so I did that. That's my first pick. The second pick is, while I was gone over there, I wanted to make sure my house was looked after. So I had people coming in and looking after my house from time to time. So I purchased a couple of Nest cams from Nest, or the company that makes the learning thermostats and all that. So I put a couple of these around the house, and I got to tell you, it was such a peace of mind being able to just grab my phone, open the app, and say, what's going on in my office right now, and click that and see this room. right? Or click on another button and see my kitchen and see what's going on there, or see what's going on in my garage, So I picked up a couple of those and put them around the house, and I was thinking they're going to work okay. I probably won't use them after this, but I'm using them all the time. The negative of these Nest products, Nest Cam products, are you would think that they're set up so that they would start recording when they trigger motion or not record, but they don't. If you have it on, if you have these Nest Cams on all the time, they are constantly transmitting data to the next servers. It's secure, but it's using your bandwidth, constantly sending HD data up to the servers. So when I bought a bunch of these things and I turned them all on, and I'm like, why is Netflix stuttering? I have fast bandwidth here, but I have no, everything slows down because they were saturating my bandwidth. So what I ended up doing is I'm thinking, I really don't need to see the garage all the time. It'd be great if it had motion sensing on it, and it would just trigger and turn on when it saw motion, then turn off. They don't have that feature yet. Apparently, people have been asking for it. But what I've been doing is, if I want to see what's going on in my kitchen and I'm out, I just turn on the camera, look, and then turn it back off. You can do it from the remote or from the app. So that's my second pick. With that caveat, don't get it thinking that you're going to put these in your house and let them run all the time forever, because you're not going to do that.
Yeah.
It's going to suck up all your bandwidth and you will be upset. All right, guys. Before we end the show, what do you got planned for? Geez, this is the last show of
2015.
The last show. This is the very last show. Valerie, I know you're doing a special show on Street Focus soon for the end of the year, right? You haven't recorded that yet, have you?
Yeah, we did.
You did? You did that 3 years ago.
No, I did a couple of days ago. I tried to get things at least a week in advance.
There you go.
So yeah, it's kind of tips and good resolutions. Maybe 2016 is the year that you decide not to buy gear and just spend your money on a trip or education or something. Things like that. So
Blasphemy.
We just threw some project ideas, and for street photographers mostly. So it's going to be a fun show, and it's going to be released on New Year's Eve. But other than that, lots of good shows coming on Street Focus, and I'm starting the 2016 workshop season with Paris in 3 weeks. So, and then it's a new destination or two every month after that.
And how is the sign up rate on those? Because every time I talk to you, you're like, oh yeah, they're all sold out.
It's everything is sold out for 2016 except a couple spots in Rome, and I just opened Vancouver a couple weeks ago. In August, and I think it's 2/3 full, but there are still about 3 spots. But yeah, Paris through the fall has waiting lists, and it's crazy. Yeah, it's good. So I'm just about to open 2017, actually.
Oh, jeez. How many people do you take on each workshop?
10.
Okay, 10.
Yeah.
Seems like the current number that I hear from a lot of workshop people that run these things. Very cool. You're busy. Okay, we got that. Shiv, what about you? What's going on?
I am going to get the 100-400, Valerie. Just remember.
Okay.
And it's going to be in 2016.
I think I see a little drool down there.
So, January is big. I'm doing this birding festival in Titusville, the Space Coast Birding Festival. And that's where hopefully Panasonic's going to ship me one of these lenses that I'll be able to use. And that's 6 days of doing, or like you do, photo walks. I mean, these are kind of photo walks, but they're birding walks. Two walks a day plus some presentations in the auditorium. So that's going to be lots of fun. And fortunately, the folks will have the opportunity to use gear that's I'm going to have available for them. So lots of Panasonic cameras and lenses and stuff like that. So that's on for January. And then what I'm really looking forward to in 2016 is a brand new trip, and this one's going to be to Ethiopia.
Oh, nice. Ethiopia! Really?
Yes.
Where in Ethiopia?
A couple of places, primarily focusing on the tribes, the Omo tribe in particular. So getting those dates finalized, getting those, sort of, it's going to be fun. It's going to be 15 days, and that's a dream.
Okay, we got to talk about that offline.
Yes.
We got to talk about that. Very good. Congratulations on all that. That's crazy. For me, what's happening next month? I'm heading out to DC for some things I can't really talk about yet. Valerie, you know why I'm going. No, Shiv, you probably know too, but I can't.
Your January trip.
You can't talk about it.
It's every January.
You would have to shoot us if he tells us. So.
I wouldn't, but some people might. So that's happening. Heading out for that. Looking forward to that. And then I'll be joining Valerie in June, along with a bunch of other TWiP people, like Rob Knight and who is it? Scott Bourne will be there. Tons of people from TWiP will be there, and that's out of out of Chicago in June. Then in October, I'm doing the Out of New York event, which is in obviously New York, and then I'm heading back to Vietnam again. This time I'm going to the far north, and then down to the far south. So I think I'll be in Vietnam for like a whole month this time, starting in November of. Actually, I'm going to leave and go to Vietnam directly from New York. So I'll be on the road from October through probably the mid-November. I'll be back for the holidays this time.
So you get to do the rice fields.
Yes, and waterfalls, and it's going to be insanity. And by then, I will be confident enough to bring my competent enough to bring my drone with me. So we'll see some Vietnam shots from the air. So.
And don't forget all the stuff you learned to pack.
Oh, I'm packing nothing. I'm bringing all black, washable underwear, convertible pants,
waterproof shoes.
Waterproof shoes. Done. I'm actually. You should see my floor in my office because right now I'm reorganizing like the different pods. I have a pile of like what is it? Insect stuff that goes in a separate bag. I have a pile of power things, or power adapters for all the different regions in the world that I go to, and then I have another pile of like Tylenol and anti-diarrheal and all this other stuff in a separate pile. So
check the expiration dates.
Oh yeah. That I should put that on my checklist.
That's something we didn't talk about, but it's so important to bring meds that you're used to, because you won't find the same thing anywhere and outside of the country. So it's important to have a little bit of everything.
Yeah, it's a little micro pharmacy.
Based upon the length of the trip, make sure you have a few extra days, because you never know where you could get stuck.
That's right.
That's true. Hey, one last thing. Speaking of sickness and all that stuff, travel insurance. Do you guys purchase travel insurance and travel health insurance when you're gone, or how do you handle that?
Travel insurance, yes. And with travel insurance, you also get the airlift ambulance if needed and stuff like that. That all comes part of the package.
And where do you get that from? Is that come from your regular insurance provider, or do you get that?
No. There are travel insurance providers. There are links on my website for it, and I can send you those. But the important thing is just make sure that your insurance that you have, your health insurance, you take your cards with you, because if something were to happen, you're going to have to pay out of pocket. Yeah. But they'll reimburse you when you get back.
Yeah.
So
that's a big deal, because especially traveling to different countries or third world countries, a lot of stuff can happen.
And one of the things that you should always ask is, in the group, is there anybody who has a health issue that may require? And then you make sure that where you go, you've had at least some contact or communication with in the event of.
Yeah. Valerie, what about you? Any thoughts on health insurance for travel?
Yeah, definitely people should have travel insurance when they travel. I mean, especially if they're on a tour. Even, something happens to them just before they leave the tour, then their travel insurance will cover their trip, because they can't get their money back. I mean, everything is already paid for. Sometimes their flight won't even be transferable, so travel insurance is pretty important. And then for medical, I mean, like, for example, in France, getting medical getting treatment will be cheaper than what your copay would be in the U.S. anyways. So you don't really have to worry about paying up front and then getting your money back, because chances are, we've done, just not on my tours, but like for the kids, we've done some ER, ambulance trip, ER stitches, was less than $100, everything included. Yeah. Our copay here is $500 if we have an emergency. So it's like, we don't even need the bill, Yeah,
here's probably like, $100 per millimeter of suture thread to sew.
Yeah.
Yes.
So, yeah.
Oh, good grief. All right, guys. Thank you so much for taking the time today. I feel like we could go another hour talking about this stuff. It's, this is valuable. I hope it was helpful for a lot of people. Please send me all the links that you guys want added to the show notes, and we'll add them in there and make this post and this show kind of a resource for people that are getting ready to go places, and so that they have a good time and get great photos instead of having trauma while they're away.
Right.
And a very happy New Year to everybody.
Yep. Yes.
All the best
Happy
for
New
2016.
Year.
Yep.
Thank you, TWiP listeners, for all of your support in 2015, and let's crush it in 2016. And be sure to listen to Street Focus, because that is an awesome show, and Valerie crushes it every single week over there. All right, as a plug. Valerie, you can send me the check later for that. All right, guys, we're at the end of another episode of TWiP. I want to thank our sponsors, both FreshBooks and Lynda, for their support of the show. And be sure to visit our website, obviously, at thisweekinphoto.com. With that, it is time to take that lens cap off.